Hey guys, this is Red and Blue, the channel on YouTube for all things PSG, and today it is match day, Champions League, day 7 of the group stage, and we're off to Lisbon for a game against Sporting Portugal. If you haven't seen it, go check out the long form video that I did yesterday with my mate Richard from All Things Alva Lade. We really went in depth into the matchup and so on, so lots of good context there, but I wanted to do a little bit of a match day video with the latest information. And I think, like, to start with, the main thing is really what is the expected starting 11s on both sides. For PSG, there's a little bit of not quite a surprise, but it looks like we're switching gears a little bit. And our good friend Ukrainian Zabarny might be playing as the right fullback, with Zaire Emery moving into midfield to cover for Joao Neves, who's suspended for this game. And so it looks like, I mean, the media are still showing this PSG team in a 4-3-3 formation. And so we would have, in this context, Chevalier in goal, a back four of Nuno Mendes, I heard with you have to say, Nuno Mendes, Pacho Marquinhos, and so Zabarny on the right. Midfield, Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, Zaire Emery. And then up front, Kvara supposedly, Dembele and Doué. I think de facto, like an organization like this, and I think we've seen it against Lille, the rationale for it, and I think like the conversations that I've been hearing is that we know Luis Enrique likes to replicate what works from previous games, and what we've seen work in the game against Lille is Zabarny kind of in this right defender position, but in exchange, a lot of freedom for Nuno Mendes and Zaire Emery moving into midfield. And I think the reality of it is that all of a sudden, we're not really talking about a 4-3-3 tactical makeup anymore, but really more of a 3-4-3 that kind of evolves into a 3-2-5 in offensive position. And so the reality is that we're looking at a back three with Pacho, Marquinhos, Zabarny, four in midfield, Nuno Mendes on the left, Fabian Ruiz, Vitinha, and Zaire Emery, and then the front three, Kvara, Dembele, and Doué. And in offensive makeups, all of a sudden, you've got three of the players in midfield, realistically, between Nuno Mendes, Fabian Ruiz, and Zaire Emery, who can slot in and come join the attack, and potentially Dembele, who likes to drop in deeper and maybe come back down. A lot of movement, a lot of permutations, a lot of different options tactically to be able to surprise the Sporting Portugal team. And that's something that we also heard from the PSG boss and from Marquinhos during the Lille game, with both of them saying, you know, a lot of teams have studied us, a lot of teams are starting to catch up on how we're playing, and so we need to find new ways to surprise people and confuse them and make sure that they don't really know what to expect when they're playing us. And I think, you know, in this context, we know the three at the back, it's something that we've worked on a lot. And, you know, I think with the return of our starters in attack, it gives us an opportunity to really, like, kind of put this to the test, try it out for real and see if it creates mayhem or not. And I think, you know, in the context of this game as well, and you know, that's where I'll transition into talking about Sporting Portugal. But we are facing a Sporting Portugal team that is very, very good, very disciplined tactically, but is also missing a lot of players. And so as a lot of players who are playing out of positions, they aren't playing their normal role. So the reality is that in their 4-2-3-1, their left winger is their usual left back. Their central defender is usually their substitute left back. They've got two subs playing in midfield. One sub, actually, like one sub playing in midfield in the spot of their captain. So they are missing in quite a few positions. And so I think there is an opportunity to confuse them and also like create mayhem, because they might not have a built-in understanding of who's doing what within their squad. And if all of a sudden, you know, like three different players drop in and out of the right flank of PSG, the left flank of Sporting, all of those sporting players who aren't really playing their usual role, they might get a little bit confused as to who's covering what and who's doing what, and how they're supposed to stop PSG players. So I think it does make a lot of sense. I really like as well, and I think we've seen this against Lille, is that right now, the reality is that Nuno Mendes on the left and Warren Zaire-Emery on the right, they're two of the most impactful players that we have on our squad right now, the players that have been doing the best in recent week. And so I think giving them freedom and also giving them a role when they can push forward on the pitch, it makes a lot of sense to me, because you do want your best player to be able to create danger. And this is really what happens when they move up. Both of them also have the physical stamina and speed and mobility to be able to cover a lot of ground. And so all of a sudden, when we get into phases where Sporting is attacking, where Sporting is trying to dominate the game, Zaire Emery can come back, Nuno Mendes can come back. All of a sudden, we're moving maybe either into the 4-3-3 that we had initially in the media, or even a 5-2-3 with a lot of stability at the back. And I think, it makes a lot of sense to me. I think tactically it's smart. And yeah, I do think, in general anyway, and I'll move into my overall view of the game. I do think we should I feel I say it every time, but I do feel this isn't going to be an easy game. We've seen the Sporting Portugal team. It's doing well. Honestly, it's a strong team. They lost in Munich 3-1, but they scored the first goal, and for 60 minutes, they were really creating problem for Bayern Munich, which is saying something. They won at home against Marseille. They've drawn against Juventus, I think. And even in the domestic league, yes, they're 7 points behind Porto at this point. But if you look at the details of it, they haven't dropped a lot of points. It's really Porto is doing a perfect season so far, and so you can't really follow that pace. But they haven't really done that poorly. And so I think we should be very conscious that we're walking into a difficult game, and I think that's where the benefit of having so many Portuguese players and so many Portuguese staff members within our team, we should be fully aware of what we're walking into. And so with that context, I do think that yes, we should still be in a position to win this game. I do think PSG is on an ascendant curve since the beginning of the year. And yes, not everything is perfect. Yes, on every game there are things that are frustrating. But I think on balance, if you look at what we're putting out on the pitch between that first game against Paris FC, the game against Marseille in Kuwait, then the second game against Paris FC, and then the game against Lille, it does feel like our players are gearing up, and we know that everything in PSG is made for the Champions League anyway. So everything that the staff has been working on, that the players are looking at, everything has been building up for this game and the Newcastle game next week. And we know those are the important games of the month. So that's the reality of it. I see Dembele coming back to a really good level. I see Nuno Mendes being at its best. I see Fabian Ruiz coming back. I see Barcola was really, really interesting. I thought in what he did in the minutes he played against the 30 minutes he played against Lille. And so I think there could be a lot of things clicking. And this is the exact game where last season we were playing Man City and turning things around Man City and really starting to show our peak potential and starting to show our best football. And so I think we're gonna be starting to be seeing the same. So I'm excited for it. I do think we've got to be coming into this game as favorite. Simple as we've got to be coming into this game as favorite. We've got to make a statement, and it's hard because, like I said yesterday with Richard, in the Champions League, PSG it's all or nothing, and so are we going to see the team that battered Atalanta and Leverkusen, or are we going to see the team that was held to a draw against Bilbao? I think the reality is probably somewhere in the middle, but I really expect like us to be closer to the Leverkusen and Atalanta side than or like even the Barcelona side than the team from Bilbao. So we'll see. I think like ideally we want to be scoring quickly, but I think like as the game wears on, yes, they've got a lot of players missing, so it's not like they're going to be able to do a lot of substitutions. They're going to be losing out on quality every time they do. So I think like the longer we are in the game, like the better off we're going to be. And if we need to win 1-0 with a 92nd minute goal from the back of the knee of Barcola, honestly, I don't care. Like I'll take that, but I think like we're going to be producing better than this, and I do have really high hopes for this game. So I said yesterday my prediction is 3-1. It's kind of like I hold to it, but in a way, like I think my prediction it's more like I don't know. It feels like it's a coin toss between like a 1-0 on one side or like a 6-1 on the other. And like I say 3-1 because it's kind of in the middle and between those two sides, but it feels like it's going to be one extreme or the other. Either like we take control of the game from the start, we grab them by the throat and never let go, and just like start scoring and start like really turning this game into our own, and then like it could be a really like wide win and a very like a signal sent to Europe, or it's a more difficult game, a tighter game. I still do feel like we can prevail in the end. I do feel like we've got more ammunition up front than they do, and I do think like the matchups on either side are more geared to our advantage. I think the way people usually talk about the Champions League, it's that it's a competition where you have to be cold within both areas, within your defensive area and within your offensive area. And I think if I look at the defense of Sporting Portugal versus our offensive lineup, and if I look at our defensive lineup versus their offensive lineup, I'm sorry, like Trincao is a fantastic player, Luis Suarez has been doing well for them and so on, but Marquinhos, Zabarni, like Nuno Mendes, come on, like they should take that. And Ignacio is a great player, but they've been missing some of their starters, and so Dembele being back, Doué being back, Gvara or Barcola, and I think there's a debate there. Yeah, we take them, and so like that's where my confidence is stemming from, and ultimately, like even in the midfield, they're missing their captain. They're missing like a lot of oomph. And yeah, if I look at the matchup, like I'm sorry, I'm gonna look at the players, but if I do like Vitinha versus Trincao, and then Simoes Morita versus Zaire Emery and Fabian Ruiz, yeah, man, like yeah, it's for me it's pretty clear. Obviously, nothing is ever so certain in a football game, and so we'll see. And like I said, it's going to be a tough game. They're going to have their moments, and we're going to have to defend at some points. But yeah, like we need to go to get the 3 points. Get the 3 point, consolidate our place in the top 8, consolidate our third place, or maybe even better if possible, and see what happens, and go into that last game against Newcastle in a position where nothing can happen to us, and we can just concentrate on getting better, on settling an old score against Newcastle. I'll be very happy with that. So anyway, this is what I had for you guys on match day, Sporting Club Portugal PSG tonight in Lisbon. It's going to be a big game. Make sure you watch it. We're going to be tuning in tomorrow for a debrief of the game, whatever happens. But hopefully debriefing a big game. Hopefully debriefing that face Nuno Mendes screaming in joy at a few goals. And yeah, like, make sure you let me know in the comment what's your prediction for the game. What do you expect in terms of scoreline? What kind of game do you expect as well? If you've made it this far, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And as always, even in Portugal, ici c'est pareil!